Scott Miller with MyWorkDrive. I want to talk to you briefly about the concept of using a single server to run an entire MyWorkDrive environment. The MyWorkDrive server software itself, your identity provider. Of course, in today's video we'll be talking about Active Directory, but you could use EntraID, and your file storage. Today's video we'll be talking about using local shares, but they could be SMB, NAS, Azure Files, Azure Blob, OneDrive, SharePoint, S3, any of those things. They're all available to you in this scenario. What we're going to do, we're going to install the MyWorkDrive server software. We're going to create a user base on Active Directory, and we're going to use local file storage. How are we going to do that? There's two methods to doing this. One, you could simply create a Windows server, could be physical or virtual, on-prem, in the cloud, doesn't really matter. Install Active Directory on it, or enable the Active Directory role and create some users, groups, that sort of thing. Then install MyWorkDrive and step through the wizard, which will complete it'll add an example share. You could also use one of our pre-built images. If you're deploying in Azure or AWS, we create a pre-built image that includes the MyWorkDrive server software and a wizard to create or join Active Directory or EntraID. And again, that wizard will create the file share that you need, an example local share. Let's get into it. Here we are in Azure. I'm going to go ahead and create a virtual machine. And the key to this, of course, your organizational settings will dictate regions and resource groups and such. But the key to this is to go to images and search for MyWorkDrive in the marketplace. Now, this also works on AWS. Their process is slightly different, but same basic concept. Picking this image will automatically adjust the size of your machine. You may need to make other adjustments based on your organization. If you need assistance with sizing your virtual machine, we have a sizing guide and some sizing recommendations on our website. Of course, we're going to need a default administrative user and a password that matches the complexity requirements of our tenant. On disks, I typically downgrade this to a standard SSD. MyWorkDrive does not require a premium SSD. The rest of these choices will be dictated by your organizational requirements and your tenant. So let's go ahead and create this. When this finishes creating, we will download the RDP file or connect with Bastion as your tenant dictates, and we'll continue setup on the MyWorkDrive server software itself running the wizard. So we'll be back to you as soon as that's complete. Our resource has finished creation, so we're going to go ahead. At this point, you can set your RDP rules and networking and get an RDP file and connect. Okay, I have attached to this machine as a virtual machine, signed in with the user I created. And you'll notice that we've got the standard Windows network prompt. We're the only machine on this network, so it doesn't matter. We're in our own resource group. And we now want to complete the cloud file server setup. So let's go ahead and run through this wizard. We need to enter a username for the license. So of course, we need a trial key, so we'll go ahead and request one. This will complete the trial key provisioning process. It's going to prompt us what we want our host name to be. You can change this later, but it's important that we reserve a host name for the purpose of testing and trial. And you're welcome to go to production with this host name as well. There are multiple options for publishing your MyWorkDrive server. You can visit our article in the help desk if you have any questions about that. Next, it's going to prompt what we want to do as far as authentication. Again, I mentioned for the purpose of today's conversation, we're going to use Active Directory. If you have Office 365, Microsoft 365 accounts, you have an Azure tenant, you have users in Azure, you could use that as your alternative, but we're considering ourselves that we don't. And we want to create a new domain. Of course, if you have one, you can join one. These steps of creating a domain are specific to the setup in the Azure image. If you're doing this by hand, you would install Windows, manually create the domain controller role, manually create your domain, and then install MyWorkDrive. So this is fine. MyWorkDrive logo is great. This is just standard functionality of creating a domain. And this is going to complete MyWorkDrive setup and restart the machine. So as soon as the machine is restarted, we'll continue. You will notice as the install goes through the process that it shares with you its current status. The MyWorkDrive server has rebooted. You'll see we now have Active Directory users and computers on our desktop. We have the domain we specified in the prior step. I believe it was MyWorkDrive.local in this example. And we're now going to, we'll talk about this in a moment. Anyway, we have our MyWorkDrive domain. We have our users. The only user it's going to have created is our MyWorkDrive user, the one we specified that it upgraded. At this point, you'll want to create more users, domain admins, etc. And of course, it's now confirming that we've done the initial configuration and we should proceed to the MyWorkDrive wizard. So let's get into that. The first question you're going to have is, what's my username and password? And that's going to be a domain user in the case of a server that is domain joined. And you'll note it gives you that in the instructions here. So our login is going to be MyWorkDrive. And of course, the password we specified. Now, if you had created other users, you didn't use MyWorkDrive as a username, you'd have other users. Let's go ahead and log in. We land on shares. You'll notice that we've automatically created links to 3 different shares. A SharePoint site if you have one, a OneDrive account if your user has one, and a demo share. The demo share is that local share that I mentioned I wanted us to have. Go ahead and open up File Explorer here and we'll take a look at that. Essentially, this is an example of how you can now, this essentially is building on that all-in-one. We have Active Directory users and computers. We have a file share on the demo folder, C drive, demo share. There's our sample file folder. If we take a look at settings, remember I chose a host name. You'll see that that's configured under our Cloud Web Connector, which is our built-in reverse proxy. Cloud Web Connector is enabled. Of course, you'll get an email about this too. It's MyWorkDrive all-in-one.myworkdrive.net. And the rest of these have a bunch more options that you can go to if you choose. But in other regards, we're all set. So let's go ahead and open up Edge here. Actually, we're in Edge already. Just open a new tab and we'll go to that URL. It's going to prompt us to log in. Of course, the immediate question is, what's my username? Well, your username comes from Active Directory. And again, we haven't created any users yet, so we're just going to use MyWorkDrive. That's the user we used on the admin panel. It's the user we created as part of the virtual machine creation. When I sign into this, it's going to give me my demo share. And if I have OneDrive and SharePoint accounts, I can use those as well. If you don't, you go ahead and just turn those off. So we've signed in to the web client with our domain user. We have access to the files that are available to us. In this case, just a small set of sample files that are included. You now have the ability to upload, download, edit, view any operations you need to on these files, create additional shares on the C drive, add additional volumes to the server if you want different drive letters, set up backup, all of that functionality. Recapping quickly what we accomplished in today's video, we started with nothing, and our goal was to create a single all-in-one MyWorkDrive server that hosted the MyWorkDrive software, the identity provider. In our case, we chose Active Directory, and our file shares. And that's what we've accomplished here today. If you have any questions or want to explore other features in MyWorkDrive or need to download the software because you're doing this on your own and not from our image, visit MyWorkDrive.com. You'll find our download, our support links, and all of the additional information about the function and features in MyWorkDrive. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to visit our help desk or send an email to our support team, support@myworkdrive.com. Thanks very much for your time.